The following announcement has been paid for by the Sleepy Nation.
Well, let me tell you something. At the Steel Cage Massacre, I'm coming after you, and I'm gonna break you, and I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna make you regret you ever stepped into the ring with a Sleepy One. Because I'm walking in with this title, and I'm walking out with this title. And that's the bottom line. Because Sleepy said so. Wrestling is great, isn't it? It's like ballet with blood, and modern art with steroids, and Shakespeare with baby oil. But above all else, it's my passion. I started watching wrestling in the late 90s. Like a lot of people, wrestling was in a real boom period at the time. Stars like Austin, The Rock, Mankind, Goldberg, the NWO, they'd all burst onto the scene, and suddenly wrestling was cool. It made Monday nights must-watch television. And then one would know what happened on Nitro, what happened on WWE Raw, what happened. It was big, it was amazing, it was important. Like many people though, when all that came to an end, because all boom periods must be followed by a bust. And when the bust came along, I stopped caring. It wasn't really until 2003, 2004 I started watching wrestling again. Some of my friends in secondary school at the time were quite big wrestling fans. I got drawn back in, and I've honestly never looked back since. Wrestling became as important part of my life as video games are, or as playing bass guitar is, or don't they actually have any other hobbies apart from making ice cream, which I'm terrible at. Sure, wrestling's not as good as it used to be, it's not as hot as it used to be. Match quality wise, we're looking at a massive improvement. I mean, take the recent Tommaso Ciampa Johnny Wrestling feud, incredible matches. Take the series between Okada and Kenny Omega, incredible matches. I mean, you haven't got to look far for great matches. But there is something missing from the storyline element of wrestling. Whether it's just that I became a jaded old fuck and nothing's as fun to me as it used to be before. Maybe I've forgotten how to have fun, and nowadays everything's big and important, so you have to know the reason behind everything. Or maybe genuinely something has been lost in storytelling. It's possibly down to the fact that I'm more interested nowadays in the backstage goings-on of wrestling than I actually am the in-ring product. Sure, I get taken away in a match, I might get dragged into the drama of it, but what really interests me is what's going on behind the scenes, and that's a problem. Because no longer am I cheering the guys I like and booing the guys I don't. I'm now cheering people based on how good their matches are, as opposed to what they're doing on screen. Apart from Tommaso Ciampa, fuck you Ciampa. But you know what's always fun? Wrestling games. Now, they're not always good, but they're almost always fun. Can you think of anything more fun than slamming your mates around the ring, getting their shoulder to that mat for that 3 count, 1, 2, 3, and raising your arm in the air as a champion? Because I can't. And you're going to join me, because as I mentioned last week, we are going to be taking a look at some wrestling games. Some of the best and some of the worst. But what we're going to look at today is what makes me a wrestling fan. So I've made 5 categories that I'm going to explain to you why they're important to me. Category 1. My favourite match of all time. Now, my favourite match of all time is the retirement match between Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. Now, whilst there's a lot more technically brilliant matches out there, there's a lot of matches with young and up-and-coming talent who might do a triple backflip and blow everyone's mind, or the top rope might shatter as they do a flip. To me, this match had everything. It was a perfect sunset on a perfect career. For those who don't know, Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, his career in the early days especially, was influenced by Ric Flair. He idolised him, and now he was the man going up against them to retire him. It's that simple. If Michaels won, Ric Flair was gone. Ric Flair's days were numbered, and he knew it, so he picked Shawn Michaels as opponent. Shawn Michaels took the honour, but when it came down to that moment, when it came down to that super kick, he almost couldn't bring himself to do it. He looks Ric Flair in the eyes and whispers the immortal words, "I'm sorry." I love you. Super kick to the face. Ric Flair goes down. The referee counts 1, 2, 3. It's over.
Flair wants to fight. Oh! My God, what a shot!
Ric Flair, 16-time world champion, one of the greatest pure heels and also one of the best baby faces in the history of wrestling. Done. It was the perfect closing chapter to someone's career. Of course, he then went to TNA and had some matches, but we're going to ignore that because at the end of the day, in the average wrestling fan's mind, all that matters is what happens inside Vince McMahon's circus. And that's what happened. Ric Flair's career closed by a super kick from Shawn Michaels. It was perfect. I don't know what else more to say to that. The next question is going to be, what is my favourite feud of all time? Simple. Austin McMahon. It launched the whole Attitude Era. It launched the wrestling boom period. It made wrestling cool. Between Austin and the NWO invasion of WCW, wrestling was a cool product. The idea of Austin and Everyman, a robotic redneck, coming into the ring and just tearing strips out of his boss every single week. That was some cool shit. And it caught on with not just people like me who are 10, 11 years old, possibly younger at that time. It caught on with the Everyman as well. Everyone wants to stick it to the boss. It's everyone's dream. And Austin did it. I mean, you could live that. It was real. I mean, it wasn't real. It was as far from real as possible. I mean, you just fired the man and moved on. But you see, McMahon couldn't fire him because Austin made him too much money. And that's where it all came down to it. The idea was that Austin didn't want McMahon. And McMahon didn't want Austin. But they actually needed each other. Austin couldn't be Austin without McMahon, and McMahon couldn't be McMahon without Austin. It was perfect. It was, in general, the most perfect storyline. And of course, ever since then, every wrestling company on the planet, including WWE, are continuously trying to copy it and remake it. And you can't remake it. It was lightning in a bottle. But it was good. The closest study probably came was the Summer of Punk 2. And we all know how that ended. Kevin Nash. As all good storylines end. Kevin Nash. Third question. What is the favourite wrestling event that I've ever attended live? WrestleMania 30. New Orleans. I had great seats. It was a great card. It opened with Daniel Bryan, probably my favourite wrestler of the modern era in all honesty, taking on Triple H in a match that if Daniel Bryan won, he got to be the #1 contender to the title. He got to face Randy Orton and Batista in the main event for his chance. The whole storyline built up to this was that the fans wanted Daniel Bryan, but WWE didn't. He was too small. He didn't look like a champion. He had straggly hair and a big long beard, and nobody wanted that. He was never supposed to be the guy. Batista was. Batista came back, and the fans rejected him. So, over time, the fans began to generate a movement for Daniel Bryan until WWE had no other choice but to give him the opportunity, both in real life and behind the scenes. Like, the actual match was never meant to be Daniel Bryan, and in real life they never wanted Daniel Bryan. The storyline became reality, and it was incredible. It was the fans brought it home. When Daniel Bryan finally beat Triple H, got himself into that main event, he was battered and broken. He was taped up, he had injuries, and the whole storyline was, can Daniel Bryan do it? Now, at that point, I forgot that I'm, at the time, a 22-year-old man and all this is fake bullshit. I was a 10-year-old kid again, and I was cheering my lungs out for Daniel Bryan to finally get that victory. And when he does, when he makes Batista tap out in the centre of that ring, it is a special moment. The crowd goes crazy, confetti falls from the top. It's the most fun I have ever had as a wrestling fan, and I was there. Side note, also to show that Undertaker lost undefeated WrestleMania streak. It was a bit weird. No one knew how to react. Some guy behind me, who was the world's biggest John Cena fan by the way, just got up and walked out and left as soon as Undertaker lost. Still real to him, guys. But it was incredible. It was one of the best experiences of my life. Not just wrestling show wise, it was genuinely one of the best experiences of my whole life. My next question then. Who is my favourite wrestler of all time? So this is a hard one because genuinely it would fluctuate. I mean, watching the product right now, I am instantly taken with the whole Johnny Gargano Tommaso Ciampa feud. Johnny Gargano plays the perfect babyface. He does. He's a babyface in peril. He plays it amazingly. And Tommaso Ciampa is the perfect heel. I mean, he doesn't have entrance music. In this modern day, he walks out to silence with the crowd chanting "Fuck you, Ciampa," or the noise of the crowd booing him. It's incredible, and to get that kind of heat in the modern day era is unbelievable to do that. But he's not my favourite wrestler of all time. I love Kenny Omega. His stuff recently is brilliant. His matches are amazing. I love the whole sort of social media engineering the whole Bullet Club does with the Being Elite Wrestling show on YouTube and weaving it between independent promotions and their idea of trying to make independent wrestling a thing. I mean, they are running a show of only independent talent backed by only themselves. They sold out the building. That's incredible. But he's not my favourite wrestler. My favourite wrestler is simply Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania, the Heartbreak Kid. I mean, he was a dick the majority of his career, but his matches were always incredible. And he was always doing stuff other people weren't, whether it was simple things like the art of telling a story, or it was just general mannerisms, or his ability to just flip between good guy and bad guy whenever it was needed. Shawn Michaels was just brilliant, and I loved him. And I don't wish he would come back, because that's silly. He had a good ending to his career, and that's fine. But, you know, I also wish he would come back because Shawn Michaels was incredible, and he's my favourite of all time. He's immense. Like, take his match with Kurt Angle, I mean, at WrestleMania 21. Build? It was alright. The match itself was incredible, though. I mean, by today's standards of, like, the sort of high-flying, flippy, dive, flip-flop, fly stuff, you know, not as athletic as you think, but still, really good story of two people trying to up each other, and it was told perfectly on what is otherwise a reasonably average card, but a great match. And for years and years on end, it was always Shawn Michaels with the best match at WrestleMania card. And it's a shame to see him go, but leave the memories alone. Now, I'm going to finish off with my favourite wrestling finishing move. Now, I'm going to get some honourable mentions to some finishing moves here. We've got Bam Bam Bigelow's Bam Bam Salt. I mean, seeing somebody of that size doing technically a moonsault, more of a twisting crossbody, but still, seeing someone of that size do a moonsault was pretty incredible. It always impressed me. Still to this day, watching back some Bam Bam stuff always impresses me. Then we've got other moves that are incredible too. Take the One Wing Angel by Kenny Omega. It just looks so fluid and so brilliant. Great move. What else have we got? Other great moves. There's so many. The Pedigree. Pedigree is a great move. Can come pretty much out of nowhere. Slam, bam, done. Great move. The Kinshasa. Shinsuke Nakamura. Another great move. Looks really brutal. Really painful. Quick kick to the skull. Amazing move. Love it. But the move that is perfect is the greatest finishing move ever. In my opinion, is the RKO. Or the cutter, or the diamond cutter, whichever one you want to call it, whichever variation of the move. When you think about a finishing move, it needs to be done on any opponent of any size at any time. You know the meme, the vines, RKO out of nowhere. That move can legitimately be hit out of nowhere. Hit from shooting star presses, hit from curb stomps, hit from grounded positions, hit from the air, hit from the ropes, hit literally in the middle of matches. You can come to the crowd, boom it out. That's what makes it a great finisher, and in all honesty, probably is the best finisher in wrestling. Probably ever. Between that and Kevin Nash's Jackknife Powerbomb. Because that's also pretty brilliant. I mean, the only trouble with the RKO is that I would worry will eventually become a super kick, because previously it would have been a super kick. Great finishing move. Out of nowhere, takes out the opponent, but obviously that's like a transitional move now. Which is the whole issue, because I don't want to get into the whole thing with transitional moves in indie wrestling, because I don't want to do that, because this isn't technically about wrestling, is it? This is about games. And I'm getting on a sidetrack. So I'm here to announce that unfortunately this week I didn't get a chance to actually play a game because I've had a very busy schedule. However, I thought I'd give you this insight into why I'm doing wrestling games. And I thought I'd let you know that next week I'm going to take a look at the first WWF wrestling game licensed on a home console. We're going to look at WWF WrestleMania. It's a bit weird. Stay tuned, guys. I've been Snork Sleepy. You've been the Sleepy Nation. Tune in next week. Same sleepy time, same sleepy channel. It's been the Sleepy Show. Stay sleepy.
Brother!